people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. I'm here today with my November wrap-up, and in November I read 13 books and I successfully completed my own readathon. I hosted a non-fiction readathon called DramaQueenAthon, which is what I call all my readathons, and for that I had chosen 2 books and I managed to finish both of them, and I will talk about the books in the order that I read them throughout the month. I will mention which books were for DramaQueenAthon. Since there are 13 books to talk about in this video, without further ado, let's get into it and let me share with you all the books that I read in November 2020. The first 2 books were part of the JCB Prize project that I had going, which went up earlier this month, and I will not talk in detail about them because I already have a full video in which I reviewed all the books that were shortlisted for the JCB Prize 2020. So the first book that I read in this month, and the first book itself was such a cracker of a book. I loved it, and that book is These Are Bodies Possessed by Light by Dharini Bhaskar, and it is one of the most beautiful books I've read this year. It did not start out like that. Like, I was really annoyed at the beginning, but as I flipped the pages and as I read the story and as I read the lyrical writing, so beautiful, I fell in love with it. This is the story of Dia, who is in a marriage with a man who she finds it difficult to connect with. But then a different man enters her life, and now she finds that heady romance making its way to her, and this man, Neil, is about to make her forget everything from the past. Even the first love of her life, he's about to make her forget it all. But now Dia is thinking what she is doing is right. So to find answers for that, she has to look into not only her past but also her mother's past as well as her grandmother's past. And I absolutely love this book. It's wonderful. I love this writing. You just have to be patient enough. Even about 50-60 pages in, I don't think this is a book that will pull you in, but keep at it and you will soon find yourself, spiraling down that vortex, and you will be like, oh my god. This was a full 5 out of 5 stars for me, and I cannot recommend this book enough. I was hoping that this book would win the JCB prize, but unfortunately did not. Never mind, because we still do have this book out in the world, and that is a win for everyone involved. The second book that I read in November was Gin Petrol on the Purple Line by Deepa Anappara. This is the story of Jay, a 9-year-old who watches police patrol on TV and considers himself to be a detective in the making, and he wants to put his skills to use. And this comes in handy when a classmate goes missing from their slums. He enlists the help of his friends Pari and Faiz to help find their classmate, and together they go on this whole stretch where they try to interview people and they try to find out things. They try to go to places they shouldn't be, but things take a huge turn when more children go missing and a huge secret is about to be revealed to these children. And I must say that this book will not just make you uncomfortable, it will open your eyes to the realities of what people face in the slums. As privileged people, we don't know what goes on over there, and especially the difference in with which people treat poor people and even middle class people like us. There's a whole lot of difference, and it's very clear in this book. Like, when poor people need help, they're not going to find it that easily, and when the rich need help, oh my god, it's just a phone call and things are going to go wonderfully for them. And that is why this is such an important read, I would say, because it lays bare the realities of life, of Indian life at least. I gave this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. If you'd like to know more about these 2 books, These Are Bodies Possessed by Light and Gin Petrol on the Purple Line, I have done a full video about the JCB Prize shortlisted books, and I will link that up here as well as in the description box below. Please do go check it out. Next up is Essential Items by Udayan Mukherjee. Thank you, Bloomsbury, for sending me this copy, and this is a collection of tales from a land in lockdown from across the country and about people who are managing lockdown, who have to find their own way through the lockdown and through this entire pandemic, and how they deal with it. And I enjoyed reading this so much. This is an easy read and it gives you an insight into how different people's minds work and the different kinds of people that do exist in our country and how they go through what they go through. And the most important thing is that everybody deals with something in their own way. There's no single way of coming to terms with the situation that we are in right now, and that is what the author has told throughout this book in its undertones. And there are lessons of kindness, of warmth, of happiness, of giving, of understanding, and so much more in here. I would definitely recommend this. If you are reading short stories, then this is one that you should definitely pick up. It's wonderful, especially thanks to the times that we are living in at the moment. I gave this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. Next up is a book that I read for my readathon, the DramaQueenAthon, and that book is Being Reshma by Reshma Qureshi and Tanya Singh. This is the story of Reshma Qureshi, who survived an acid attack and how she has been bringing her life together ever since. But the thing is that it's not just about the acid attack, it's about who Reshma is as a person and her family and her parents and everybody around her, how they have been treating her, how they have been so supportive, her friends, the world who has taken notice of her for the good that she is doing. And I really was very moved by this. It broke my heart to see what she had been through, and that there are so many women across the country who can't walk on the roads without fearing for such attacks. It's sad. It's sad in a lot of ways, but it also makes me so angry to see that people can be so disgusting. It is a moving account of how Reshma survived and an inspiring account of how she has been helping people come to terms with their situation and to show them that just because some idiot decided to do this, your worth has not lessened. And I love that about this book. The only thing that I did not like about this book, not one bit, was that towards the end she does not talk about what her parents feel, what her brothers feel, what her sisters feel, because her family has been so supportive throughout. They have played such a huge role in her recovery. If she could have mentioned that one little thing in some detail, then it would have been amazing and I would not have had any problem with this book per se, because it is such an important book. I gave this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. Next up is The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue, and this is a historical fiction. This is set in Dublin, I think, in a hospital where a nurse is trying to take care of her women patients. This is a maternity plague kind of ward where expecting mothers are admitted if they have the fever. And this book talks about the treatments that used to be back then around the First World War, and the misconceptions, the misogyny, the sexism, and there's so much more. You don't see a woman doctor during that time, and even if there's a woman doctor, she is tried to be framed and pushed out of the hospital. I mean, I'm veering away from the point, but the main character is a nurse who finds herself to be a head nurse when the actual head nurse is away, and she treats her patients with so much patience and love and affection, and she is scrambling about and she needs an assistant. And when that assistant comes, she is one of those people who doesn't know much, but she is willing to learn, and she does it like this, and the story goes on from there. I don't want to even recollect the direction that story took, and I was not expecting that. It was abrupt, but I feel like it fit right in there in that narrative, because you never knew what was about to happen during those times. I know I'm being vague, but this is a book that you need to experience. It is amazing. I give this book 4 stars out of 5. Next up is Suncatcher by Romesh Gunasekara. I've been holding out on this book for a long time, but I finally read it and I was so underwhelmed, I can't tell you. This is set in Ceylon, I think in 1960s, and it follows the story of two boys, one of which is narrating the story, and he gets acquainted with this other whole larger than life guy, and how his relationship with that boy, in the foreground of the political tensions and the political situation in Sri Lanka in erstwhile Ceylon, it takes place, and this whole class divide and this whole thing that's going on over there, how both of the parents see each other, and what exactly happens to make this story the way it is. Why does this happen? To a large extent, you could say I liked reading this book, but it was not the level that I was expecting. There have been so many glowing reviews of this book everywhere, but I was like, what is wrong with me? Why am I not liking this book? But then I thought, okay, it was just not for me. And especially that ending, I'm like, it was totally unnecessary. I would recommend it to you because I know why people would like it. It is because of it's not non-linear narrative, but it's a kind of reminiscence of a childhood where you could just take a bicycle and just go roving around everywhere without having the fear of being run over by a car or something. It's that freedom that you are acquainted with when you read the book, and I see that, but I did not enjoy this book on the whole, but I'll still give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is the DramaQueenAthon book club pick for the month of November, and that is The Humans by Matt Haig. Matt Haig, what else do I have to say? But this was, I think, Matt Haig's first ever book, and you could tell the difference because he has evolved over the years. His writing has gotten so beautiful over the years. During the first few pages, I was like, is this the Matt Haig that I know? And what is going on? But soon I could see him. Like, I could see him in those pages, in those words, and I was like, oh my god, now it's familiar. Now I know who this is. This is a story of Professor Andrew Martin, who one day he ends up feeling lost in his own skin. He does not like anything. He finds food weird. He finds everything people do weird, and the only thing that he can connect to is his dog, Newton. And as he discovers new things as a new person in his own skin, he discovers anew his relationship with his wife and his son, and a lot of things happening that will make you connect with your own humanity, your own reality, and make you question your own decisions, and it will make you be happy to be a human. And that is exactly why this is called The Humans, because humans are weird, but the weirdness is what makes humans special. But I must say that I read 4 of Matt Haig's books this year alone, and this is the first of those books that I found that he was sort of floundering in the beginning. I would have loved some context, but it takes some time for him to set it in this book. I think it's about 250 odd pages, no, about 300 pages, and it takes some time for him to set it, and it's a little annoying because we would love some context to go with why he is roaming around the way he is roaming around. But other than that, it's a wonderful book, and if whenever you come across 97 points or the number 97, oh goodness. I gave The Humans 4.25 out of 5 stars, although I would give humanity as a whole maybe 2 stars or 2.5 stars because we are ruining the planet. Oh, my leg fell asleep. Next up is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Yes, I finally finished reading it. I'd been going on since October and I did not get to reading it, and I found that somehow I was not able to pick it up. But when I did sit down and the pace picked up, I was like, oh boy. Last night I dreamt I went to Mandalay again. This is probably one of the most famous quotes of all time, famous opening quotes of all time, and once I finished the book, I could totally understand why. The main character is a companion to a grumpy old woman who just sees things just for herself, and they are in Monte Carlo, where she meets Maxim de Winter, and they soon supposedly fall in love and get married. And Maxim de Winter is the owner of the Manderley estate, and after marriage they spend a few weeks or so in Venice, and then they come back to Manderley. But all the main character knows about her now husband, is that his first wife Rebecca died a few months ago, and he is a widower, and now she has to come to Manderley, and she has to deal with the fact that there is a housekeeper called Mrs. Danvers who seems to hate her, and she sees Rebecca everywhere, and she thinks that Maxim is trying to look at her through Rebecca's lens, through how he knew his first wife. And this whole thing culminates in a way that I had not at all dreamed of. Like, I had never in my wildest dreams thought that this was going to be like this, and now I know why this book is read in the month of October. Like, so many people picked it up for Halloween, and I'm like, why are they picking it up? And now I know. It is creepy, it gives you goosebumps, it is so well written. I mean, I wouldn't say the writing is perfect, but I would say that once it gets going, the pace, then it will pull you in. Otherwise, in the first 100 or 200 pages, it will take some time for you to actually digest what is going on, because it does not move, the story does not move. But when it does, and when the revelations are made, it's like something else altogether, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was shocked at that end. I was absolutely shocked, but then I remembered what happened in the beginning, because it starts at one point and then goes back in time, so I had to connect that back to one person. And I'm probably not making any sense, but I would highly recommend this book. And once I got into it, I thought the writing was pretty fluid. First it wasn't, then it was. I don't know how that works, but yeah. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. Clearly one of my favorite classics now. Next up is the subscriber pick for the month of November, and that is Sapience by Yuval Noah Harari, and I have a full vlog cum video review up on my channel. If you'd like to check that out, I'll leave the link here as well as in the description box below. And I won't go much into detail about this book, except to say that this is a brief history of humankind. Wow, so illuminating, so enlightening. All you have to do is read the cover. But the author in this book, he talks about how humans have evolved, how their decisions have changed the course of the planet, how they have affected other species, other living beings as a whole, and how our immodesty has led to us naming ourselves wise and then doing everything unwise. He also talks about money, about merchantship, about kingdoms, about government, about religion, language, and so much more. This reads like a textbook, it felt like to me, and just one read is not going to suffice, because this is heavy. You have to retain whatever the author is telling in here, and I felt like one read wasn't going to do justice to this book. It's an illuminating read, certainly, and I feel like you must read it to find some sense of where humans are, what they have been doing, and the whole world as it was. And now I really want to read Homo Deus, because I really want to see where humans are going. I gave Sapience 4 stars. Next up is Homebody by Rupi Kaur. Thank you Simon & Schuster India for sending me a copy of this book and for having me on your blog tour. I read this in about 4 or 5 hours. I mean, this doesn't take 4 or 5 hours, but I took my time to read and savor everything, the illustrations, the little thoughts that the author has the knack of writing. I feel like this shouldn't be treated as poetry, but this is a collection of thoughts that Rupi Kaur has put together, and I maintain this about Milk and Honey as well. There are some poems in here that will resonate with you in ways that you would not expect, and I did enjoy reading it. Although it's not the best out there, it is something that you can pick up as a quick read and consider it as a book full of thoughts and affirmations. This has fewer than 200 pages, and if you sit through it, you can finish it even in 1.5 to 2 hours. It is that easy to read. And while I liked reading these poems and affirmations, I feel like just writing one line and calling them a poem is not the right way to go. It's not doing anyone justice, for that matter. You cannot call it a poem. There needs to be more. There needs to be more substantial content in there. I gave Homebody 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is the 12-week fitness project by Rujita Divekar. I randomly started reading this book, and I must say at the very beginning that I will not be rating this book because I have not tried out whatever the author has said in the book. Rujita Divekar is a well-known nutritionist, and she makes some very important points in this book, and she talks about what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat, the actions that you should take in order to make your life better. And she is a huge, champion of eating the food that you grew up with. Eat what your mom and grandmom had fed you when you were a child, because your health at that point in your prime, it was the best, and if you want to go back to that, then you need to go back to those diets as well. And I sort of found that really true in its own way, because she says eat what you're comfortable with, eat what you grew up eating, and make small changes in your life, maybe through exercise, or maybe the way you see gadgets, maybe the way you eat, even the way you eat. But I do see where she's coming from, and I do understand why she said that, because when you're eating, you need to have that connection with your food in order for it to make an effect on your body. So I am planning to follow Rujita Divekar's 12-week fitness project and make gradual changes to my lifestyle. I don't know when I will start it, but I need to streamline my work, my schedule and everything. I have a lot of things to do before I can set my mind to it, because once I set my mind to it, I want to make sure that it will translate to the rest of my life. Next up is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the first in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, and I loved listening to this on Libro FM. Thank you, Libro FM, for giving me the opportunity to listen to this book. And this is the story of quite a few people, and I know that's a very bad way of starting a review, of telling you what a book is about. So this is not technically set in the city of Tova, but it culminates to where it ends up, and there's this winter solstice happening, and there's this huge celestial event that has to be managed by the sun priest. There are politics happening in Tova, in the whole priesthood. There are people baying for the sun priest's blood, and there is a clan called the Carrion Crow, which it feels like the other priests do not like, and the sun priest is all for peace, but people are baying for their blood. In the distance, from a distant land, a ship sets sail. The captain is a woman called Giala, and she has to deliver cargo to the city of Tova. The cargo is a man called Serapio. He is blind, but he does have powers, and Giala feels that. And this whole journey of right from the sun priest trying to do the right thing, to Giala and Serapio making their way to Tova, while crossing obstacle after obstacle, this whole adventurous fantasy story is one hell of a ride. You will not expect things to happen the way they happen, but they do, and it's so much fun to read. I loved it. The best part about this book is that there's such a diversity of characters, such a diversity of genders and sexualities. I love this, and I cannot wait for the second book in the series. I know I can't say much about this, but since I was listening to it on audiobook, it is taking a while for me to digest the magnitude of this book and the amazingness that the author has put in this fantasy world. So much thought has gone in, and so many details the author has put in over there, that my mind was blown, man. I gave Black Sun 4.5 out of 5 stars. Last up is the second book that I read for my non-fiction readathon, DramaQueenAthon, and that is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. And this is Lori Gottlieb's own story combined with the story of the people she meets as patients. Lori Gottlieb is a therapist, and after a pretty bad breakup, you could call it, which she wasn't expecting, she decides that she needs to see a therapist as well. And the way she bridges this gap, the way she takes her understanding as a client and puts it to use as a therapist on her own clients, and about how the human psychology is, it just whirls and whirls, and it makes you understand in ways that you would never had thought of before. This is an amazing book, and I would highly recommend this because of how human it is, because of how vulnerable it is. We think that therapists always are the stoic people who do not let their emotions through, but they are people too. They have feelings too, and despite what rules dictate, there is a lot going on in a therapist's mind, and they care about you too, which is why they do what they do at the moment. And I really loved reading it, and I loved Wendell, who is Lori's therapist in this book. She has given them a different name, but their way of thinking is amazing. They are so practical, so thoughtful, and exactly how a therapist should be. And this is amazing. It made me cry in a lot of ways. It made me reevaluate my own relationships with the people in my life, and it made me think that, oh, okay, what she's saying is so right. Even though it did make me uncomfortable, because sometimes I don't want to accept something because it's making me uncomfortable. But a book that you should definitely read, and I'm glad that I finally picked this up and that I finally finished reading it. I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. So those were all the books that I read in November 2020. Which of these have you read? Which ones did you like? Which ones did you not like? Did you like this video? Did you not like this video? Which books are you currently reading? What did you read in November? Which was your favorite read of November? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.